Hi guys, welcome to Abuse Recovery Success. Today is an episode where we're going to be talking with me, myself, and I a little bit about triggers. Triggers are something that come up for me quite often, and I'm sure as listeners that most of you have endured, abuse, recovery, all of the different things that triggers might be something that you run into quite often as well. For me, they can be something as little as, somebody saying a certain thing a certain way to me. They can be seeing something. It can be a memory. It can be a time of year. I mean, the list goes on, but a trigger is something that I think the definition for me would be it upsets me. It disturbs my peace, my well-being, and sometimes it can send me into past trauma recollection. When I first quit drinking, it would be a certain time of day. It would be, a certain feeling of, heat, good weather, things like that could be super triggering. Physical, so then asking me if I have to physically remove myself, yes. But I'll physically remove myself for an emotional trigger as well. Like, let's say maybe I'm out at a loud restaurant and everyone is super boisterous and you can feel it being charged and fueled by alcohol. I guess I'm feeling it, so that could be physical, but I'm also emotionally receiving that and feeling like I don't fit in here. These people are annoying, wanting to just kind of get out. So I think most of the time they're probably twofold. Also, when I speak about triggers, specifically for me right now, my triggers are really surrounded by my trauma. So there's all kinds of triggers in the sense of there's triggers for substance where you might like have a craving to drink or a recollection of a drinking time. My sponsor likes to call it drinking time. But then on the reverse note of that, there's trauma triggers. So maybe it is hearing something, hearing news from family, hearing something that reminds you of things that have happened to you, reminds you of your abuser. So then that's a different kind of trigger. That's not sending me to necessarily want to go drink. That could end up happening in a domino effect sort of way. But at the end of the day, triggers can mean one thing when we're talking about trauma. I imagine, I haven't been a victim of domestic violence, but I imagine, and when I've spoke to a lot of my guests that have endured things like that, it can be they're in a new relationship and the significant other is doing things that remind them of maybe behaviors their partner that abused them did before the abuse. So when we talk about triggers, unfortunately, there's just so many of them out there. And I think, it can be overwhelming at times to find a way to process and be strong against all of those triggers. I love that question because I don't always know. At the end of the day, again, I'm trying to talk, a little bit about both addiction side triggers and trauma side triggers. So for trauma, I know it all the time, I just know it. It's a ruminating thought, I've had some things come up for me with my abuse, and it's really affected my mood and my ability to carry on. And so each day things happen and I think, okay, I know that I had this trigger and I'm overcoming it by doing this X, Y, and Z. But I know I'm conscious of the effort being put forward of trying to overcome it and the fact that it's still so relevant. So even though maybe I can jump the hurdle, I can keep going, I'm still aware of the hurdle, if that makes any sense. And it's not always very fun or easy. And then with alcohol, for me, with abuse, it's a little bit different. I think with alcohol, it is a little bit more like, okay, it's over. Like I want to say that I'm very proud of myself all the time for overcoming these triggers and all that goes on with, fighting my addiction daily. So I give myself that pat on the back, that, that acknowledgement of, you did it. But I move through those a little bit quicker and they kind of stay in the rear view. Whereas I think my trauma triggers are very much until some real time has lapsed from whatever triggers have popped up, it's still very much present. I wish that they did. Actually, they know, but sometimes, people don't want to just walk on eggshells for you. At the end of the day, people are people. And so I think I have some people in my life that are very aware of triggers, and I don't think people are tiptoeing around, but I think that they're mindful of them, and they're kind about it. But I think then there are some people that don't. They live their life, and if they trample on some of those, then they do. And you have to be responsible for you, and it's not on someone else to fix you. It's not on someone else. They're not at fault or at blame, for what you have going on. And I think, I'm going to actually relate this. Not that long ago, Demi Lovato said something about, yogurt. I don't really get too far into all the media and all of that, but, really being triggering for her with the sugar-free, sugar that, I hear bits and pieces. And I was not really empathetic at all. And the reason I wasn't is because, my problem with alcohol is no one else's responsibility. And I don't go to restaurants and get upset when there's alcohol around. Now, will I make educated decisions on not going and hanging out at a bar till 2 or 3 a.m. or a nightclub? Because that doesn't work for me. There are those in recovery that are comfortable in those settings. But I don't put that on someone else to protect me or keep me in a bubble. I think when we come to close relationships, it would be nice if the people we're closest to could at least, be somewhat mindful. But again, I stress to my listeners, at the end of the day, it's our job to do the homework, to do the giving, the nurturing, and the things that we need to protect ourselves, and then to work effectively through triggers however we see fit. And for me, some days that's not me just powering through the day. Some days it is. Some days I fight through and I go through my things. But some days, like yesterday, I went ahead and I called a timeout. I got work done, but I took some time for me away from other people to try to put myself back together again. And I think that is important for us to remember, that each day, each trigger might require a different kind of effort from us to heal, to move through it, to fight through it. What I really want to stress to you, my listeners, most importantly, is that we all have struggles, that I struggle immensely at times. Some days are better than others, but reality is we're going to fight through triggers, bad spots, rough spots, and you should never feel bad about yourself for those moments. And while we're in recovery, whether it's recovery from trauma, recovery from addiction, while we get healed and we go through healing, it's always going to be a process. So I want you to feel strong in the sense that you're not alone, that you will have good days, you will have bad days, and to carry on no matter what. Thanks, guys, for another episode. I love spending one-on-one time with you guys, talking a little bit about our struggles, our triggers. Know that you're strong. Find us at abuserecoverysuccess.com. Follow me at April_the Hills or April Hill on YouTube. Have a great day, guys.